I've been working on trucks for 42 years. I pulled engines out of F-150s, dropped transmissions on Silverados, and rebuilt rear axles on Rams at 2 in the morning. I know what a truck is supposed to do. A truck is supposed to haul. A truck is supposed to tow. That's the whole point. So when the manufacturers started marketing electric trucks as legitimate towing machines, I paid attention. I didn't dismiss it right away. I watched the tests, I read the numbers. I talked to guys who actually bought these things and tried to use them. And what I found was not a revolution in trucking. What I found was a problem. This is not about hating new technology. I've installed plenty of modern electronics on trucks. I run diagnostic computers in my shop every single day. Progress is fine. I'm for it. But progress has to work. Progress has to hold up when you hook a 10,000-pound trailer to it and drive 300 miles across Tennessee. So today I'm going to walk you through the math, not the marketing numbers, not the press release, the actual documented real-world numbers that owners have posted, that journalists have tested, and that the physics of batteries simply cannot escape. If this is the kind of no-nonsense truck information you're looking for, hit subscribe right now. I put out videos like this every week and I don't sell anything to anybody. Let's start with the one number that Ford used to sell a lot of F-150 Lightnings. 300 miles of range. That's the EPA-rated range on the extended range battery. Ford put that number front and center, 300 miles. That sounds decent. That's Nashville to Knoxville and back. That's enough to make a working person think this truck might do the job. But that number comes with an asterisk the size of a barn door. 300 miles is what you get driving by yourself on the highway at a moderate speed with no load on a good weather day. The moment you hook a trailer to that truck, everything changes. And I mean everything. In 2022, a car and driver test team drove an F-150 Lightning with a loaded 8,000-pound trailer. They wanted to see what range actually looked like under real towing conditions. The truck's dash was projecting a real-time range estimate as they drove. By the time they hit the highway with the trailer, that estimate had dropped dramatically. By the end of the documented test, they were averaging around 80 miles of towing range. Not 300, 80. That's a 73% reduction in range just from hooking up a trailer that thousands of truck buyers tow every single weekend. And that wasn't an unusual test. That was a standard towing scenario using the truck as advertised. Motor Trend ran a similar test. Their Lightning towing a travel trailer at highway speeds saw range collapse to somewhere between 80 and 100 miles, depending on speed and terrain. Other publications got similar results. This isn't one bad test. This is consistent, repeatable, documented data from multiple independent testers. The range collapse under towing is a fundamental limitation of current battery technology, not a software bug Ford can fix with an update. The physics are what they are. Moving a heavy trailer at highway speed demands an enormous and sustained amount of energy. Batteries feel that demand immediately and they don't hide it. Here is why the range drops so hard. When you're towing, the power draw on the battery pack skyrockets. Instead of drawing a moderate, consistent current at highway cruise, the electric motor is pulling massive current to maintain speed against the additional weight and aerodynamic drag of the trailer. That high current draw does two things. It burns through the battery charge much faster than normal, and it generates heat inside the battery pack. Heat is the enemy of lithium-ion batteries. Every battery management system in existence is programmed to protect the battery from overheating, because an overheated lithium battery is a fire risk and a permanent damage risk. So the system starts to throttle available power as temperature rises. It limits how much current the battery can deliver, which means you're getting less power right when you need it most. On a long grade pulling a trailer, that throttling is not theoretical. Owners have reported it happening on real roads. This thermal management problem compounds itself over a long towing trip. The first 50 miles might feel fine. The battery is cool, the power is there, the truck pulls strong. But after sustained high current towing, the pack heats up. The system starts protecting itself. You get less power to the wheels. Your speed drops unless you push harder on the accelerator. Pushing harder draws more current. More current means more heat. the system throttles harder. This is a cycle that diesel engines simply don't face the same way. A diesel generates heat too, but the cooling systems on heavy-duty diesel trucks are designed around decades of sustained towing loads. The thermal math for battery packs under towing is still being figured out in real time. Now let's talk about charging, because even if you accept the 80 to 100 mile towing range, you'd need to stop and charge. And the charging situation in the places where people actually tow things is one of the biggest problems this technology has right now. Think about where trucks go when they're towing. They go to campgrounds, they go to boat ramps, they go to farms, to ranches, to construction sites, to hunting camps, to places that are specifically chosen because they're away from the city. The DC fast charging network that makes electric vehicles somewhat practical is built around population centers and interstate corridors. It is not built around rural America, and that is exactly where towing happens. I've pulled trailers through parts of Kentucky, through West Virginia, through the rural stretches of Texas, through Wyoming. Out there, you're lucky to find a working gas pump every 40 miles. A DC fast charger? You might drive 2 hours out of your way to find one. The PlugShare map tells a story. You can find corridors along major interstates where Electrify America stations exist, but get 20 miles off that interstate and you're in a charging desert. For someone towing a boat to a lake in rural Tennessee or pulling a horse trailer to a county fair in rural Kansas, the charging infrastructure is not there, and it's not going to be there next year or the year after that. Building rural charging infrastructure is expensive, and the economics don't work without massive customer density. When you do find a DC fast charger and you pull in with a trailer, you have a new problem. These charging stations are not designed for trucks with trailers attached. Most of the stalls have pull-in parking that assumes you're driving a sedan. Getting a truck and a 24-foot travel trailer into a charging stall requires backing up, repositioning, and sometimes using a stall that blocks 2 spots or creates a hazard for other drivers. This isn't a minor inconvenience. This is a logistical problem every single time you charge. Some Lightning owners have reported pulling around the charger multiple times trying to get positioned correctly. That time adds up fast. And let's talk about that time directly, because this is the number that ends the conversation for working people. A diesel truck, a Ram 2500 Cummins, or a Ford Super Duty Power Stroke takes 5 to 7 minutes to fill up at a truck stop. You pull in, you swipe your card, you squeeze the nozzle, you wash your windshield, you're done. With a full tank, a diesel Super Duty towing a 15,000-pound trailer can go 400 plus miles before stopping. One stop for 5 minutes over a 400-mile tow. That's the diesel reality. With an F-150 Lightning towing that same class of load, which it's not actually rated for, but setting that aside, you'd need to stop every 80 miles. At a charger that might or might not exist. And that charging stop is not 5 minutes. A DC fast charge from 20% to 80% on the Lightning's extended range battery takes around 40 to 45 minutes under ideal conditions. Ideal conditions. Cold battery, working charger, not competing with 5 other vehicles for the same stall. So here's the time math on a 400-mile tow with a Lightning doing its documented 80-mile towing range. You stop 5 times. Each stop is 45 minutes minimum. That's 3 hours and 45 minutes of sitting at chargers. For a trip that a diesel truck does with one 5-minute fuel stop, you've just added over 3 hours to your day. If you're hauling livestock, that's 3 hours of animals stressed in a trailer. If you're towing a boat to a tournament, you've potentially missed your launch time. If you're a contractor who bills by the hour, you've lost half a day of income in charging time. This isn't a small inconvenience. This is a fundamental incompatibility between current battery technology and serious working use. Now I want to talk about something that doesn't get covered enough. What happens when you're going downhill with a trailer? In a regular truck going downhill with a trailer, you use engine braking. You drop a gear or two, let the drivetrain slow the whole rig, manage your speed without riding the brakes to death. This is basic truck driving knowledge. It saves your brakes. It keeps you in control on a steep grade. In an electric truck, the regenerative braking system recovers energy when you lift off the accelerator. That's the technology that helps electric vehicles get some range back on descents. But when you have a trailer pushing the truck from behind, the regenerative braking dynamics change significantly. The trailer has its own momentum. That mass is pushing forward against the truck. The regeneration system is not designed to manage that third-party pushing force the same way it manages the truck's own weight alone. On steep descents with heavy trailers, Lightning owners have reported that the regenerative braking felt less predictable. The trailer brakes have to do more work. The system can become confused about how much braking force is being generated by regeneration versus the trailer surge brakes. Getting the trailer brakes properly calibrated with an electric tow vehicle is also a different process than with a conventional truck. The gain settings on the brake controller interact differently because the electric motor's regeneration is already applying some braking force that the conventional controller wasn't designed to account for. This is solvable with time and experience, but right now in the real world, it's an area where inexperienced EV towers have gotten into trouble. Let's address the hitch capacity numbers directly. Ford marketed the F-150 Lightning's towing capacity at 10,000 pounds for the extended range battery version. That's the number on the sticker, in the brochure, on the website. 10,000 pounds. Sounds like a real truck number. And technically the hitch, the frame, and the axles can handle that weight. The physical towing capacity is real. The problem is range. Towing at or near maximum capacity crushes your already reduced range even harder. If you're getting 80 miles towing an 8,000-pound trailer, what are you getting towing 10,000 pounds on a hilly route? Some testers have reported figures down to 60 miles in those conditions. At 60 miles of range towing max capacity, this truck becomes operationally unusable for any meaningful towing trip. The gap between marketing-rated towing capacity and real-world usable towing capacity is enormous. Compare that to a Ford F-250 Super Duty with the 6.7 Power Stroke diesel, rated towing capacity of up to 20,000 pounds conventionally. Real-world tested range towing a heavy load? Still over 400 miles on a full tank. The range barely changes compared to unladen driving. A diesel engine pulling harder just uses more fuel proportionally. The fuel tank size is the constraint, not some dramatic collapse in total range. A diesel driver towing heavy knows exactly what to expect. Their planning math is simple. An electric truck driver towing heavy has to plan around a range that can change significantly based on speed, terrain, temperature, and battery state of health. And I want to say something about battery state of health because it matters to towing more than people realize. Lithium-ion batteries degrade over time. Every charge cycle degrades them slightly. High heat cycles, which is exactly what sustained towing creates, degrade them faster than normal driving cycles. A Lightning with 60,000 miles on it that's been used for regular towing may have a battery that delivers less range than it did new. Ford's battery warranty covers significant capacity loss, but the degradation happens gradually. Your 80 miles of towing range at purchase might become 70 miles at 3 years, then 65 miles. This is documented behavior of lithium-ion chemistry under heavy use. A diesel engine doesn't have this problem. A high-mileage Power Stroke tows just as far as a new one if it's been maintained properly. I talked to a guy in East Tennessee last summer who bought a Lightning to pull his 26-foot camper to the lake every other weekend. He'd read the specs. He thought the 10,000-pound tow rating meant the truck could actually do the job. His camper weighs about 7,200 pounds loaded. His round trip to the lake is 190 miles. He found out on the first trip that he couldn't make it without charging. He stopped at a charger, waited 45 minutes, and made it to the campsite. On the way home, the charger he planned on was broken. He sat on the side of the road for an hour while he figured out his options. He sold the truck within 4 months. That's not a unique story. Go look at Lightning owner forums. Go read the threads. The people who bought these trucks for real towing use are not happy campers, and I mean that literally. There are specific failure modes that have been documented. One of the more publicized ones involved a Lightning owner towing across Nevada. The battery thermal management system kicked in so hard from sustained highway towing that the truck went into a reduced power mode. Speed dropped. The truck couldn't maintain highway speed on a slight grade while towing. The driver had to pull over, let the battery cool down, and then continue at reduced pace. Ford has pushed software updates to manage battery temperature more aggressively, but more aggressive thermal management means earlier throttling. which means even less power available for towing. There's no free lunch here. The physics don't negotiate. Another documented issue is what happens to range estimates. The Lightning's projected range display is calculated by the truck's computer based on recent driving patterns. When you hook up a trailer and pull onto the highway, the truck's computer initially doesn't know what you're doing. The range estimate might show something reasonable. Then, as the towing load registers, the estimate can drop rapidly and dramatically. Owners have described watching the range count drop in real time faster than miles are being driven. That uncertainty, not knowing if you'll make it to the next charger, is a stress that diesel drivers simply never experience. You look at your fuel gauge, you know where the next truck stop is, and you plan accordingly. The predictability is the whole point. I want to be straight about something before I wrap up. If you live in a suburb and you haul a small trailer to Home Depot twice a month, and your total round trip is 60 miles, an electric truck might work for you. That's an honest statement. The technology is not worthless in every situation. There are use cases where an electric pickup makes sense, but manufacturers are not marketing these trucks to suburban Home Depot users. They're marketing them to people who need real trucks. They're showing these vehicles at horse shows and construction sites and campgrounds. They're putting them on job sites and commercials. And that marketing is dishonest when the real-world towing data looks like this. The problem isn't that electric trucks exist. The problem is that buyers are making $70,000 to $90,000 decisions based on specs that only tell half the truth. The spec sheet says 10,000 pounds tow rating. It doesn't say that at max tow rating your range drops to 60 miles. The spec sheet says 300-mile range. It doesn't put it in large font that towing cuts that to 80 miles. Real people are spending real money and finding out the truth the hard way, on the side of a road with a dead battery and a trailer full of cattle or a boat or a camper. That's not fair to buyers. If you need a truck that actually tows, and I mean tows with reliability, with range, in rural areas, through all kinds of weather, without a 3-hour charging stop in the middle of nowhere, the current electric truck technology is not there yet. That might change. Battery energy density is improving every year. Fast charging is getting faster. Charging infrastructure will eventually expand, but it hasn't changed yet. Today in 2025 and 2026, if you need to tow, diesel is still the honest answer. Not because change is bad, because the math is what it is. If you found this video useful, share it with someone who's thinking about buying an electric truck for towing. And subscribe right here. I've got more real-world truck data coming every week, and I'm not going to sugarcoat any of it for you. I'm Wade Tucker. I've been doing this a long time. I'll see you on the next one.